before I came to Osun in 2019, I had written a piece in 2018 after the election. And in that piece, I said clearly that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to carry out some introspection to examine the roles and activities of some members of his inner caucus. Although I didn't mention Aregbesola's name, but I was actually referring to him, that there are some members of his inner caucus who appears not to be on the same page with him. That these persons cost the party undo, and but for some last-minute maneuvers, Osuntu would have gone the same way. So for me, he may not accept it, but I think inordinate ambition was part of what led to the fallout. My former boss, Oyetola, was just a victim. He wasn't the target.
Inordinate ambition.
Inordinate ambition.
Can you expatiate?
Fine. You know, when Aregbesola got to Osun, he was already seeing himself as the heir apparent to the political structure of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And if you look at some of the programs he embarked on, they look more like expansionist, strategies. He made an attempt. He said he wanted to construct a road from Oriliowu to Ogun State. They started it. I'm not sure they completed it. It started the idea that he was already seeing himself as an emerging leader.
He was already a leader.
Yeah, an emerging leader in the Southwest.
He was already an emerging leader.
Well, if you say so, but...
He was Tinubu's number 2, right? Is that not what they say?
That is what most people say. But he was already seeing himself as somebody who could topple, that
political dynasty.
That political dynasty. And so, when he now became minister, that now helped the situation. As minister, he was in Abuja, hobnobbing with other characters who also do not necessarily like Tinubu.
So wait, the battle was against Tinubu.
It was against
Oyetola.
Not Oyetola. Oyetola was just a victim. He wasn't the target.
You just heard the voice of Ismail Omipidan, the author of the book, Persona Non Grata. Hey, there's a new book, Persona Non Grata, by Ismail Omipidan of the Sun newspaper. He has told his story, and he has also come on State Affairs to explain more. I like his book. In a word, where truth often comes at a steep course, Ismail Omipidan takes readers on an unflinching journey through the trenches of journalism and the turbulent tides of his personal life. The book Persona Non Grata is more than a memoir. The author says it's a testament to resilience, courage, and the relentless pursuit of truth. So he tells the story through the lens of his career as a journalist. Ismail Omipidan was the chief press secretary to Oyetola, a former governor of Osun State. In this story, insiders trace the first cracks to battle over a party structure and influence in Osun. Those cracks widened when Tinubu's path to the presidency became clear. By the time the 2023 elections approached, the former comrades were barely in contact. Today, Tinubu sits in Aso Rock as Nigeria's president. Years ago, their partnership shaped the rise of the progressive bloc in the Southwest. As we roll your mind. Roll it in such a way that it elevates you. Do not expose yourselves to despair and fear of the future. Fill your mind with the ingredients of joy, love, and you will experience innovation in your thinking. As you do that, you will be able to harness the lessons of the political stories we tell. Ismail Omipidan on State Affairs on Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station.
Thank you for writing this book.
Thank you very much.
And another part of the book that I love dearly is Osun State politics. You were appointed Chief Press Secretary to Oyetola.
Yes.
You arrived Osun. When you arrived, what welcomed you?
Well, what welcomed me when I arrived Osun was my first assignment. We went for turning of the sword. And a few of our colleagues who accompanied me there, I felt I should at least provide some honorarium for them. And I just requested for 200,000. I met the chief of staff that wanted 200,000. He said I should go and put it in writing. I was shocked. Because where I was coming from, such an amount, the chief of staff would just open his drawer and hand it over to me to go and do my job. And here, I was told to put it in writing. It was strange to me, I must confess. So I just, because when you put it to writing, when will the money come out? Colleagues were waiting for me in my office. So I just called one of my colleagues. I said, look, take my ATM card. Go and withdraw 200,000 naira for me.
So you began to spend personal funds?
Yeah, I began to spend personal funds with benefit of insight. I think it wasn't proper because sometimes I lost count of the expenditure, and the few ones I remember to write for reimbursement, I couldn't, claim all before we left government.
So did you become poorer by the time you left government?
I am a classical example of those who would say went into government rich and come out, poor. Because
how would you explain that to the people?
Well, those who are from Osun, I'm sure they are listening to this conversation. Those who are in government today, most of them began to build houses less than a year after they assumed office. And for the 3.5 years I spent in Osun as the chief press secretary, I never put up a boys' quarter, let alone put up a big bungalow. And the house I live in Abuja, I built the house in 2014, and I got into Osun in 2019. So it's not possible to say that, maybe I got the money to build, the house in Abuja. When we lost the election, one of my senior colleagues who had served in Ondo called me and was sympathizing with me. And the next thing he asked, he said, so what next? I said, I'm going back to Abuja. He said, where are my family? I said, my family, they're in Abuja. He said, you have a house of your own? I said, by the grace of God. He said, I got one before I went to government. He said, I'm happy for you. That most of our colleagues, that is usually their challenge. Once they leave government, where to put their heads becomes a challenge. So I thank God I didn't face, that kind of challenge. And that's why I was able to fit him back into the system, because I never lived beyond my means.
The impression is that once you go into government, you come out rich.
Well, unfortunately, my case was different. At least those whom I worked with, they are alive. They can bear witness to it. And my colleagues, that work together in Osun, all of them are alive.
Oyetola was not ready to give you money.
It wasn't about Oyetola not ready to give me money. There was no money to give. There was no money to give. I joined the government in August 2019. And as at the time I came in, I met him. He told me clearly that Osun Oluwo, there's no money in Osun. We have come to work. And that sank. And so when I came in 2019, I recall that was when he was trying to stabilize the state. Then, this is September, today is September 11. August salary will be paid maybe in 2 or 3 days' time. That was the pattern until around December. That was when workers started receiving salary as at when due. So
he met a terrible financial situation.
Oh, as at the time he took over in 2018, from the information available to me, he didn't know where the salary of that month was going to come from.
Why was it so? Was it that Aregbesola did not manage the system well?
Well, if we look at the debt profile of the state and with what we saw eventually, I didn't believe, I want to say with all sense of modesty, that the man who handed over to him did not manage the state finances well. And it showed in what happened after he left.
Look at what you wrote here on page 146 of your book. You said, under Aregbesola, only 3 people were calling the shot, to the extent that the party chairman had no say in party affairs.
Correct.
That is APC.
Yeah.
You said, but Oyetola returned the party to the people. He allowed the party leaders, elders, and members to take charge of the party, even with regard to nominations for appointment. He was democratic and allowed party stakeholders to have their say and weigh in decision-making. Now you drop the bomb. If Oyetola was vindictive, Aregbesola would have been behind bars, considering the mess he created in Osun.
Yes.
Explain.
Now, there were certain projects that money for those projects were paid, but there was nothing on ground to show for the execution of such projects. People talk about single uniform. Under Aregbesola, the entire schools in Osun were to put on one uniform, same uniform. Now, they introduced a manufacturer who was bringing the raw materials from abroad. Now, when Oyetola took over, that one, I think I met the woman too. Once there's rise in dollar, she will apply for variation. So it was a business the government was not making anything from. And because Oyetola had promised the electorate that if he becomes the governor and the people insist on reviewing some of the educational policies, that he will not shy away from it. And the first ESCO meeting that was held, the commissioner and special advisor in charge of education came up with lists of issues they want to be addressed. And that was what led us into setting up a panel led by Professor Oluwaina to examine some of the issues. And so eventually the panel recommended that we should revert to, schools should revert to their, so there were so many things.
So at this time, nobody carried Aregbesola along?
Well, the committee interfaced with him. And from some of the things he said later, which I read, he said by the time the report of the committee was ready, that they didn't get back to him.
So he was expecting them to get back to him
before probably releasing, the
he wanted to be consulted.
But the Aregbesola that I know, there was no way he would have agreed that the single uniform and the merger of school and what have you should be reversed.
Remember, Oyetola was the chief of staff.
He was the chief of staff.
Under Aregbesola.
Very well.
And those policies were implemented while he was the chief of staff.
Very well.
He was part of government.
Yes.
Was it that he didn't like those policies while he was the chief of staff?
the personality and character of a leader at every point in time will determine to what extent you are able to influence his decisions. Those who have worked with Aregbesola, I never worked with him, but those who have worked with him and whom I have interacted with is the type that once he believes in a thing, he pushes it through. Your opinion or suggestion does not matter. And so, yes, he may be the chief of staff, but I doubt if he had hand. Though the Aregbesola would tell you that, hey, it was my chief of staff, they did it together. But you and I know that as the governor, the buck stops at Aregbesola's desk.
You even refer to Aregbesola as a dictator.
Yes, because if he invites you for a meeting, he will be the one to talk from beginning to the end.
You dare not talk back?
You dare not talk back. You have no idea. You have no opinion.
These were things you were told.
I was told, and I also saw it happen in some of the meetings I attended with him.
What did you see?
The idea of, once you pick up, you are discussing something, he takes it over from you and even tries to school you on the subject, even though he may not have known much about the same subject. Some of his commissioners who worked with him, one of them met me debating a matter with my principal. And eventually, my principal shifted grounds and allowed me to have my way. And he told me pointedly, he said, you are lucky that even as a lawmaker under Aregbesola, they had no say. I said, well, thank God I didn't come to work under that kind of administration. I probably wouldn't have stayed.
State Affairs with Edmund Obilo.